Hi everyone, my name is Janet Wee. I'm a product marketing manager here at Sage Intacct. Today we'll be talking about Sandbox and what it can do for your business. Before we begin, let's go over our agenda. First, we'll be going into a Sandbox overview where I'll discuss what Sandbox is. Next, we'll get into the value Sandbox can provide for your business. And to end, we'll go over some customer success stories from users who have used Sandbox and seen hard results. So let's start with the overview. Any changes to your business can lead to changes in your financial management system, but production can be unforgiving. A single mistake can cause ripple effects in your organization that cost a lot of time or money to fix, clean up, or adjust, which makes testing on production risky. This is not where you want to be running tests or trying new things. However, companies still need to be able to adapt to changing conditions while minimizing risk. Otherwise, they risk compromising their production data or staying stagnant without growth. So how can Sandbox help? Sandbox is a production copy of your instance of Sage Intacct that uses your data, your configurations, and your customizations. So whenever you're running tests or experimenting in Sandbox, you're actually using your own data, making it easier to push those changes into your production instance once you're ready. You get 4 refreshes of Sandbox each year, but you can play in each refresh as much as you want. Picture Sandbox as your insurance policy. You can run tests in an instance of Sage Intacct without compromising any data on your production copy. Then, once you've worked out the kinks or found a better workflow, you can use those learned tricks on production. Due to the nature of Sandbox, really any company with any type of complexity should be using it, particularly ones who are experiencing or aiming for growth. Now let's dive into use cases and value. Sandbox is the ideal testing environment. It's great for testing new features and modules, and you can use when purchasing a new module, when testing new quarterly release updates, or when testing functionality or automation not offered in your current subscription to see if you could benefit from adding additional functionality to your Sage Intacct platform. It's also great for testing new integrations or data imports, as well as new time-saving processes to eventually use in production. It's also great for setting up new entities or locations, and is also an ideal environment for developers to build customizations on Sage Intacct without breaking or fiddling with production. Sandbox also makes an ideal learning environment. You can use it to onboard new employees, which is great because new employees are working with data and customizations that you already use on your platform, so they can have a safe learning environment where they can't affect live data. It's also great for training remotely, which is especially helpful for companies who have more employees working from home. And it can also be used to push continuous education in a safe environment to encourage growth for employees. So let's get into the value of Sandbox for your organization. Sandbox gives you the freedom to make changes without fear. It reduces risk when testing and experimenting because there's no chance that anyone will accidentally trigger any messes in production, so you don't have to worry about potentially causing time-consuming cleanups. This sets your organization to ignite and sustain future growth. As your company grows or needs to change, you have a safe space to find new ways to adapt. You can improve processes, constantly test them, and increase your team's knowledge so you can meet your growth potential. You can also save your finance team time and effort by testing new processes in Sandbox. There are many new ways you can cut time from your standard processes by trying out new workflows to make the most of your Sage Intacct platform. By testing in Sandbox, you're also able to quickly understand the impact of these new ways to work. We've had customers use Sandbox to try new workflows that have cut down the time it took to execute certain processes from a few hours to a few minutes. Not only does this help your finance team's productivity, but it also leads to our next value, which is that Sandbox can help you build your best finance team. By encouraging your employees to continuously learn and push themselves in a safe Sandbox environment, you're investing in their career growth, which usually leads to lower employee attrition. So you not only have a highly productive finance team, but you can also retain and attract top talent in your field. Sandbox also enhances and speeds up the learning experience for onboarding or training because you're using your actual data set. And finally, it reduces your tech needs. You don't need IT or other technical resources to test in Sandbox, which is great for lean organizations. Now let's get into some of the successes our customers have seen by using Sandbox. Benchmarking results have shown that most CFOs of growing organizations describe Sage Intacct Sandbox as a must-have in order to meet their long-term objectives. What we've seen is that the most successful organizations are what we call learning organizations. This means they challenge their teams to continuously learn and constantly test to make their processes better and better so they can maximize their growth. We've also had customers report seeing 2 times faster time to solution process improvement when using Sandbox in conjunction with Sage Intacct Community. What this means is that users will get new ideas from Community, test them in Sandbox, and use these time-saving tricks in their production environment. We've also had customers report saving hours from tiresome manual processes by testing new methods in Sandbox, pushing themselves and their teams to continuous improvement. Let's wrap up by looking at a quote from one of our Sandbox users, a staff accountant in the education industry. Sandbox is a great testing environment to try something I haven't done before. I like the ability to try different processes different ways to see which would be the most efficient. If you're interested in learning more about Sandbox, please contact your Sage Intacct account manager or channel partner. Thank you so much for spending this time with me.